Despite some complaints, Blade and Soul in 2019 is still a fairly fun game at its core. I have been playing Blade and Soul since it released, partly due to me running the MMOByte YouTube channel and partly due to me just having fun playing through various MMOs. I'll admit, I have played it on and off since it launched in between large patches and releases, but I feel like that's pretty much how everyone tackles MMOs in this day and age. We play through the game, we obtain gear, we run everything we can, we leave, we play something else for a while, then we decide to come back after enough content has been released. Blade and Soul is an MMORPG released back in 2016 that had a pretty positive reception at the time. Yes, there were people that had found issue with the game, but you know, that's pretty much a given. The game has a very large focus on plot in both forms. Where most MMOs have a semblance of a story somewhere that people generally skip through because it really isn't all that necessary to enjoy the game, Blade and Soul chose to make it an actual focal point. You start off the game following the story, and then you progress only via the story. New areas, new features, and well, you know, the whole game is more or less gated behind the story, but that doesn't really inhibit you from playing it how you want to. The story, in my opinion, is probably one of the better ones you'll find in the MMO scene. I haven't really found all that many, barred like Final Fantasy XIV or Guild Wars 2, really, that have a memorable story that isn't an incoherent mess, or just not present altogether. So when I got to play through Blade and Soul's story, which Mrs. STIX and I decided to play through together, I will admit, I was left pretty satisfied. I mean, there were issues, of course, and some things I found a little silly, but whatever. The game is set in a large world with segregated semi-instant zones. You move on to different areas that each have their own levels, NPCs, and storylines associated with them, which of course ultimately tie into the main story, since you wouldn't be there if the main story didn't require you to. I know there have been a variety of changes to the skill system ever since the game launched, but I feel like we're all still of the opinion that Blade and Soul's combat is pretty damn good. It utilizes a martial arts themed real-time combat system that is still one of the best in the genre. And while people might argue that Black Desert or maybe Terra are competitors for the best action combat in an MMO, I like to see it as neither of those two games focus on the aspect of combat that Blade and Soul does, and that makes Blade and Soul unique to me. The combat is fast. You mash your skill keys together to attempt to combo various skills and force your opponents into submission, some of which frustrate me to absolutely no end, partly because I'm not the best PvPer in this game, and partly because I hate CC classes, something that I'm sure a lot of you guys are very capable of relating to. I enjoy playing my character, and one of the things that frustrates me the most in pretty much all PvP-oriented games is people CCing me to literal death. Like, you know, cool. I'm up in the air right now, and now I'm paralyzed, and now I'm rooted and stunned, and then frozen, and then rooted again, and oh, hey, look, I'm back in the air now. Oh, I'm on the ground. Oh, yeah, no, now I'm dead. Cool, thanks for your time. Okay, jokes aside, that doesn't happen all too often, and I honestly don't mind CC all that much. I just don't really think that CC being so prevalent in games as a result of the developers' inability to balance their classes is really the way to go. It truly is. The game was released way back in 2012. By MMO standards, that is a lifetime. Even so, graphically, the game holds up exceptionally well. The zones that you can explore, either by foot or gliding through the air, are all so large, so expansive and beautifully crafted. I mean, yes, the zones themselves might be a little barren in terms of content outside of the main quests, but even though exploration isn't really promoted, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't. There's always a lot to see. But the vistas, the environment, they aren't the only aesthetically beautiful aspect of the game. The characters themselves, and subsequently the character creation, is one of the most praised features. Well, I mean, the character creation, the outfits you can earn both in-game and purchase via the cash shop, and combat are all equally as highly praised. But the character creator specifically, man, you would not think that this game was made in 2012, not with the kind of characters that you can create. With the exception of, I guess, Black Desert, I dare say that Blade and Soul has one of the better character creators out there. you can really craft something truly amazing or terrifying. You're able to construct your character's face and body how you want with a lot of creative freedom given. And like I mentioned earlier, the game has a very large emphasis on plot. And, well, this doesn't really disappoint. Man, though, their fingers to this day still give me nightmares. There are several races in Blade & Soul, and quite a few classes, with more being added seemingly each year. As of right now, August 2019, there are the Jin, the Gon, the Lin, and the Yun. The Jin can play as the Warden, Gunslinger, Assassin, Blade Master, Kung Fu Master, Warlock, and Soul Fighter. The Gon can play as the Warden, the Kung Fu Master, the Force Master, the Destroyer, and the Soul Fighter. The Lin can play as the Warden, the Gunslinger, the Blade Dancer, the Summoner, the Warlock, and the Force Master. And the Yun can play as the Gunslinger, the Blade Master, the Kung Fu Master, the Force Master, and the Soul Fighter. So, as is evident, each race has their own different class combinations associated, meaning that certain classes are locked to specific races. I know some people are put off by that, but for the most part, Blade & Soul does a very good job of making it possible to play as the class and combination you want. I feel like, personally, this adds a little bit of personality and flavor to each race. I mean, PvE is about what you'd expect out of the game as an MMORPG. It's broken down into leveling, the story, side quests, crafting, dungeons, and raids. All of those function pretty much how they would in every other MMORPG. I mean, as does PvP for the most part, but PvP on the other hand has open world faction versus faction PvP that has people of different factions, such as an example, the Crimson Legion versus the Cerulean Order fighting one another. Then there is, of course, instanced PvP in the form of 1v1s and 3v3 arena battles that are normalized in terms of stats, items aren't allowed, and there's a ranking system in place. Then you have Battlegrounds, the Shackled Isles. But, as I mentioned, that is pretty much the case for all MMOs. Now, I will note that a case can be made for pay-to-win being prevalent in PvP, but honestly, I have never attempted to competitively push PvP, so I wouldn't really know. All I do know is that some people feel that PvP, or at least a specific bracket of PvP, is heavily pay-to-win. However, others are of the opposite opinion, believing that that's far from the reality of things. I can say that I haven't personally seen any form of pay-to-win in-game currently, but just because I haven't seen any pay-to-win doesn't mean that it isn't or that there aren't forms of pay-to-win. Now, NCSoft being NCSoft, you can be 100% certain that they do cater to whales. They do cater to people that pay money to get ahead. Exactly to what degree, I guess, kind of remains to be seen. Again, I can't really talk on that because I haven't experienced it, but I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention so you know and are aware that it is actively discussed. Blade & Soul is a beautiful MMORPG. It has amazing environment, it has almost unrivaled character customization, at least for an MMO released in the West currently, and some of the best combat even after 7 years. It has a gripping story, which I'm always fond of, as I am a firm believer that a strong story helps provide players with a sense of involvement, especially if it's relatable. I feel like even though the game is free to play, and there are complaints of it being pay to win, again, so long as you remain out of the competitive scene, or at least the higher ranked competitive scene, you're probably going to have a lot of fun, and you're probably not going to run into the pay to win aspects of the game. I know I never have, and I know that I have a lot of fun every time I come back to the game. The population, you know, granted it isn't what it once was, as the servers have been merged down to, well, a fraction of what was once available, but that doesn't mean that the game is dead. It just means that less people are playing it for whatever reason, either because NCSoft don't release content frequently enough, there's just not much to do at endgame, or again, pay to win pertaining to higher ranked PvP might be an issue. Now, I am not saying that Blade & Soul is objectively good or bad. It has some good aspects to it, it has some bad aspects to it. You need to personally weigh the pros and cons yourself and see if it's worth playing even in spite of the good and the bad. But that's just my opinion, my impressions of the game in 2019. What do you guys think? Do you still enjoy it? Have you played it, or are you still on the fence? Let me know in the comments below and let's talk about it. Anyway guys, that is it for me. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.
Boy, it's okay. I think we'll be more than friends.